Hi Silem stars, you're welcome back to my channel. In today's video guys, I'm going to show you how to draft this beautiful crisscross keyhole neckline bustier. Now this neckline, this crisscross neckline is also called a scissors neckline. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to draft this very easy from start to finish. So if you want to see how we do this, definitely keep on watching.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
This crisscross neckline bustier has an armhole princess dart bustier. So we're going to start by drafting the armhole princess dart bustier. So first of all, I'm going to draw my baseline at the top. After marking my baseline, I'm going to mark my vertical measurements. The first measurement I'll mark is the armhole line. Now my client's normal armhole measurement is 8 inches, but because of the way this crisscross neckline is, I'm going to use 7 inches instead, so that armhole area is not too open. So I'm going to use 7 inches for the armhole line. So if your armhole line is 9 inches, then use 8 inches if you're making this crisscross neckline. Then I'm marking the bust point 10 inches, under bust 13 inches. The waistline is 16 inches, but I'm going to add 1 inch to that to make it 17 inches. So I want the waistline to be a bit long. And then I'm adding extra 1 inch allowance. So this is the armhole line, bust point, under bust, waistline. So now on the neckline, I'm going to mark my normal 3x3 neckline. We're going to increase the neckline later on, but for now, we're just marking normal 3x3 neckline. Then I'll use my curved ruler to connect that. Then I'll mark the shoulder divided by 2, which gave me 7 inches. I'll mark that. At that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And I'll connect that point to the neckline. I'll mark the same shoulder divided by 2 on the armhole line. I'm also going to mark the bust divided by 4. So this is the bust measurement divided by 4. I've just marked that. I'm just going to use my pen to connect this. Now I'll measure what I have from here to here. And that's 6 inches. I'll mark the midpoint, come in by ½ an inch, and then connect this point to the ½ inch point and to this point here. So this is my armhole line. I hope you can see it. Now on the bust point line, I'm going to divide my bust span measurements by 2. The bust span is the distance from one nipple to the other nipple, and the distance from one nipple to the other is 8 inches. So 8 divided by 2 gave me 4 inches. So I'm marking 4 inches on this bust point line. Now these 4 inches I marked here, I'm going to take out ½ an inch from that, which will give me 3.5. Now that 3.5, I'm going to mark it on the under bust, waistline, and then allowance as well. And I'm going to connect all the points. So now for my under bust dart intake, I'm going to take 2 inches from this line here. If you're very busty, you can use 2.5 inches, but if you're not busty, you can use 2 inches. So I'm using 2 inches. I'm marking that all the way down. I'm going to connect that with a straight line. Make sure you mark this from the under bust all the way down. Don't mark it up to the bust point. I'm going to draw a curve from this point to this point here. This midpoint of the armhole that we marked here, remember this midpoint here? I'm going to mark it as well on this armhole curve. So mark that same midpoint, then connect this point to that midpoint of the armhole, okay? So from this point here, I'm going to come down by 2 inches along this armhole curve. So just come down by 2 inches from that point there and mark what you have. And that point you have there, I'm going to connect it to this bust point. So now, if you measure from this point to this point and this point to this point, you're going to see that this is shorter. So to make this equal with this one, I'm going to go up by that same 2 inches that I came down by. So along this side piece line, I'm going to go up by 2 inches. And after extending it, I'm going to draw a new armhole that will connect to the armhole line. So this here now becomes our dart. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in my measurements. Remember, I already divided my bust circumference by 4 and marked it. This is the point here. Now I'm going to measure the dart I have here and replace it and add my normal allowance. So the dart I have here is about 1 inch. So I'm going to replace that 1 inch here. And I'm going to add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. For the under bust, I'll divide the round under bust by 4. I'm going to measure my dart here, which is 2 inches. I'm going to replace it. Then add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. The same thing I marked on the under bust, I'm going to mark it on the waistline as well. Now I'm going to connect all the points together. So now I'm going to impute my bust dart. Now the shoulder to waist for my client in front is 16 inches, but the shoulder to waist for my client at the back is 15 inches. So 16 minus 15 will give me 1 inch. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch from this bust point line. I made a mistake and marked here. So from this bust point line, I'm just going to mark 1 inch. And then from this bust point right here, I'm going to come out by half an inch. And then I'm going to connect that to that 1 inch I marked. Okay. So this is my bust dart that I just created now. And I'm going to shade this out. So I'm going to be taking out this piece here just so that my back waist and my front waist are lined by the sides. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and drop the back piece before we come back to this front and then get our crisscross neckline. Okay. For the back piece, the first thing I'll do is to mark my zipper allowance, which is 1.5 inches. Then I'll mark the baseline at the top. The armhole, like I said, I'm using 7 inches. Bust point is 10 inches, under bust 13 inches. So for the front, the normal waistline is 16 inches, but I made it 17 inches. Same thing with the back. The normal waistline is 15 inches, but I'll make it 16 inches. Then I'm adding 1 inch allowance. Now, from this zipper allowance, I'm going to take all of my measurements. Now, my shoulder divided by 2 is 7 inches, so that's 14 divided by 2. I marked it here. For the neckline, I'm using 3 inches for the width, and for the depth, I'm using 2 inches. At this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch so I can create my shoulder slants. Connect this to the neck width. Now the same shoulder divided by 2 I marked here, I'm going to mark it on the armhole line as well. So just connect both points together and then get the midpoint of this line. Unlike the front that we went in by half an inch at this midpoint, we are not going to go in by half an inch for the back. It's not necessary. Then I'm going to mark the bust divided by 4 on this armhole line. Now I'm going to draw a curve from this point to this midpoint here. I'm now going to go ahead and put in my bust span divided by 2. My bust span divided by 2 is 4 inches. I'm going to mark that. I'm going to connect all the points together. On this waistline, I'm going to go out on both sides by half an inch. So half inch on this side, half inch on the other side. So this is my dart intake for the back. And then I'll connect that up to this armhole line. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my body measurements. My bust measurement is already here. I divided it by 4. Now I'm going to add my 1.5 inches allowance. On the under bust, I'll divide the under bust measurement by 4. Mark that. I'm going to measure the allowance I have here. This is 0.75. I'm going to mark it here. Then I'm going to add my 1.5 inches allowance. On the waistline, I'm still going to mark the round under bust divided by 4. Okay. I'm going to replace my dart here. My dart here is 1 inch. So I'll mark it and add my 1.5 inches allowance. And I'm going to connect the points together. The next thing we're going to do now is from the edge of the paper, we're going to go in by 1/2 inch at this waistline. And then we're going to connect it up to the edge of the paper at the armhole line. So we'll keep this aside so that we can start drafting the crisscross for the front. So now it's time for us to do the crisscross neckline. I'm going to try to trace this top part on the other side, okay? So my neckline, my shoulder, armhole, all of the things I marked, I'm going to try to trace it on the other side. You don't need to trace this part because it's not necessary. You only need this top part. So if you have a tracing wheel, you can do that. If you don't have a tracing wheel, you can use your scissors. Just make sure you don't tear the paper. You can use your scissors or a pin, but the best thing to use is a tracing wheel. So I'm just going to try to trace this as much as I can. Trace the armhole as well. So all your markings that you did at this top, make sure you trace it. Even this line. So as you can see, I went ahead to trace all the markings I have on this side, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off so that my paper is not too long. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this center line visible. Now I used 3 inches for the width of my neckline, but I'm going to increase it to 3.5 inches. So from this center point here, this is 3 inches. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch to that to make it 3.5. Now I'm going to connect this point to my armhole line. So just use your ruler to create that curve. Now for the keyhole, it depends on what you want, okay? It depends on where you want the keyhole to be. You can decide that your keyhole will be up here, which is at this top part. You can also decide that your keyhole will come down a bit. So for me, from this armhole line, I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch. All right, and then from this armhole line, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches. Then for the width of the keyhole, I'm going to go out by 0.75 on from the center. Now as you can see, this is not the center of this line, so I'm going to get the midpoint of this line. This is 2 inches, remember, so the midpoint will be 1 inch here. So it's at that 1 inch point that I'm going to get this width. Now from this new neckline I have here, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches. So that's how wide my shoulder is going to be. If you don't want your shoulder to be that wide, you can actually reduce it. So I'm just going to mark 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to connect it to this side of my keyhole. Now, please pay attention to the way I'm going to cut this out because it could get a little confusing, okay? I'm going to try to close my bust dart. I'm not going to cut all the way. So once I've slashed this bottom part, I'm going to move my pattern so I can close the darts like this. So as you can see, my lines no longer match up, so I'm going to draw a new line. Then I can now cut out my piece. So can you see how our crisscross neckline looks very beautiful with the keyhole here? As you can see, it overlaps nicely. Now for the back, we're going to make the same modifications that we made for the front. The first thing we did was that the neckline for the front, we increased it from 3 inches to 3.5. So we'll do the same thing for the back. Now the width of the shoulder for the front was 2.5, so we'll do the same thing. From this new neck width, we're going to mark 2.5. Now we're going to connect this point to the armhole line, and this point we're going to connect it to the neck depth. Now for the neck depth, you can decide to increase your neck depth. You can make it lower if you want, but for me, I think this high neckline is fine. So this now becomes our new armhole line. So now we can go ahead and cut. I'm just going to bring the neckline depth for the back down by about ½ an inch. So my neck depth for the back now is now 2.5 inches. So this is it for the back piece. In my next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to sew this piece from start to finish. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you found this video helpful. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.